This is KPPQ-LP Ventura, 104.1 FM, and we're in the Women's Room, where we appreciate and support each other. I'm your host, Kathleen Good. It's hard to believe so much time has gone by since the devastating Thomas Fire of 2017, and there are still thousands of people displaced in California. My guests today are Nancy O'Rohde and Ben Rohde, residents of Colina Vista neighborhood on the Ventura Hillsides, and now fire survivors and the organizers of a fire survivors neighbor group for people who have lost their homes. I asked them to the Women's Room to talk about what life has been after the fire, and also to be a voice for the thousands of displaced people in California where droughts and fires attributable to climate change are now the norm. I'm so happy to have you both here.
Thank you.
Thank you.
But before we start on the fire and its consequences, a little off the topic, but I'd like to have you, Nancy, explain why your name is a little different than your husband's with the O apostrophe at the beginning. And I'll tell you why I'm interested in this, because women's married names have come up as a theme before in the Women's Room. For example, Latina women keep their own names and hyphenate it to their husband's last name. So why did you change your name to be a little bit different from Ben's?
Well, I come from many people who lived in Ireland, and I identify as Irish. So I thought perhaps putting the O apostrophe in front of Rohde would be fun. And so what I did was I made a reservation in the name of O'Rohde. And we went with several friends, and they loved the name. And I said, oh, okay, I think I'll change my name to O'Rohde.
Oh, so did you do that like before you got married, or you were already married?
No, maybe 18 years into the marriage or something like that. Yeah,
that's kind of cute.
Yeah.
Okay, well, let's get back to our main topic, which is about the fire. So, Ben, I was wondering if you would start with a little background on yourselves. Are you native Californians?
Well, no, neither of us are, but I've been here since I was 2. Living in Southern California.
Pretty native.
Yeah. And, well, I'll let Nancy speak for herself.
And I grew up in the Midwest. And after we returned from the Peace Corps, Ben's parents were so nice to host us. And that was my first time in California in 1979.
Okay. So have either of you been involved in a wildfire before?
Yes. When I was little, I lived over in Pasadena up near the hills. And we would watch the hillsides burn regularly. And in those days, the fires weren't as threatening as they are now. And so people would be out with lemonade and beer, watching the hills burn and talking. And then we were working at a boarding school years later when we were married, and there was a wildfire on the campus, and so the teachers went out to squirt water on the fire, and Nancy helped evacuate some of our stuff, but the school didn't burn.
Oh, well, that's good. So you have a little experience. Did you want to say something,
Well,
Nancy?
I was in charge of paying bills, and so I took the box of bills that I had done and took them away, and everyone laughed at me that, but I thought, well, that's going to be really hard to reproduce, and so I think that's what started us on having an evacuation list. But
okay. Well, we're going to get into what you took and what you did very soon. Okay, so would you tell our listener how long you lived in the Colina Vista neighborhood and what happened to your home the night of December 4th?
We have lived on Colina Vista since 2003. And the night of the fire, I got home from work about 8 o'clock at night, and I was just having dinner. And our neighbor Bree came across the street and said, Ben and Nancy, we have to evacuate. And we both said, why? She said, come out and look. So we came out into the front porch, looked up, and there was this 30,000-foot, column of fire and smoke. And we go, got it. And she said, we've got an hour extra because one person on the street was married to a fireman, and he knew that we were going to be evacuated, mandatory evacuation in an hour. So we had an extra hour to get ready. So she came across, we told all the neighbors knew, everybody told everybody else. We went next door, made sure they knew, same story. And then we made sure the 98-year-old woman, Betty, up the street, I called her daughter to tell her that we're going to have to evacuate and we have an extra hour.
Did you have anything to add to that?
Well, I guess yes. So the night of the fire, the power kept going on and off. So we had an evacuation list because of our experience way back with boarding school fire. And so as the lights were going on and then going off, we assembled all the things on our evacuation list and we packed the back of our car. And then we went up the street to make sure that Betty was okay. And it was wonderful. There were 2 other sets of neighbors there watching for Betty, and her daughter arrived. And so
Is she an older woman?
She's 98 years old,
Oh, my
living by
goodness.
herself.
Oh, living
she
by
was
herself.
just delightful.
Wow.
So anyway, once Betty's daughter was there and taking charge, we headed back down the street, and we literally pulled up in front of our house because we had evacuated and put everything in the car, and looked at each other and said, should we go back in and get anything else? And we both just shrugged and said, no, let's go. So we did.
Are you sorry you didn't go back and get anything else when you found out that your house was gone?
Well, with the evacuation list, we've talked to a lot of people, and we've yet run into another person who had an evacuation list. And so we thought about it ahead of time. So we took the computers, we took Ben's family's personal possessions that we had on, and what we would do is I would yell out what was next on the list, right? And Ben would gather the materials, and so yes, but of course there were things that later I think in particular one book had my son's letters to Santa Claus.
Aww.
And his wish list. And it went till he was like 22. And it was hilarious to go from 5-year-olds to a list of stuff when he was 22. And I looked at that book and I thought, we'll be back. Don't be stupid. What are the chances? Of course you're going to be back. Let's just go.
So then when you found out that your house was completely gone, what was the feeling?
Disbelief. I just couldn't believe it. And Ben, what?
Oh, well, yes. So we had both were shocked, but it didn't really come home to us till we literally stood in front of our house.
Was it completely gone?
Well, about 3 days after we found out, we were finally able to get in, walk in and see our house, which we did. And we both sat there at the bottom of the drive and experienced vertigo.
I bet.
Because the house was gone. You
couldn't orient
you
yourself.
couldn't see anything. It was just burned to the ground literally, and we couldn't see a thing. So it was shocking.
I bet.
But as soon as we kind of got up to start looking at it, it was just so interesting. I mean, the way the destruction had happened, and the bits and pieces of things that we would find, and we could say, oh, well, this is the kitchen. And we in fact found the dishwasher, which was metal, hadn't burned. We opened it up, and there were dishes inside.
And they weren't burned?
Well, they were all ruined.
They were torched.
Yeah.
Oh, yeah.
but so, I mean, it was just kind of shifted gears. It was just a very interesting experience.
So I'm really wondering that, I can really feel your experience now that you've told me details. How you got over the kind of paralysis of such a staggering loss. What did you do first?
There's so much to do. But first of all, it is the cell phone. It was every minute you were on the cell phone talking to one of your friends and just saying, what can we do? What can we do to help? And then after that, you've got to go and figure out a place to live. You've got to figure out a place to put your stuff. You've got to
buy some clothes.
Yeah,
you're right.
So you didn't take any clothes, just what you had on?
A few. We took an overnight bag. We figured it might be gone a night or two.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm. And I had one more day to teach at the university. So I took one outfit and thought, well, just in case, I'll take one thing.
Yeah.
And that was the only thing I had left after that. But I remember my friend across the street called and I said, where are you now? She goes, I'm buying underwear for the family.
Well, yeah, it's just like you don't think of these things.
Toothbrushes, right?
I know.
Toothbrushes. It's amazing.
I know. I happened to go over to Walmart, and they were out of everything because all the fire survivors were there buying deodorants and whatever. But let's get on to the group that you started and a few other things. I wanted to ask you, Nancy, do you think women take the loss of home and household possessions a little harder than men, or is this sort of a gender bias?
I don't think it's a gender bias. I think it's a truth. I mean, whenever we move, I'm always in this nesting instinct, I have to wash the cupboards down before I put anything in it, and so I think it's pretty common for women to feel that way. So, when the Poinsettia Pavilion, when the city of Ventura put the Poinsettia Pavilion together and had water and gas and electricity and the tax assessor and all these other groups together in one place, including something called United Policyholders, well, that's when the person in front of me, I was waiting very patiently, and she was talking about finding her wedding ring. And she was talking and talking and talking, and the people could see that I was waiting, but they were very polite, and so I thought, people need to talk about their experiences.
Yeah,
it's something I learned at UC Santa Barbara, something I learned at Northridge. We need to talk about it, and I thought we should get our neighbors together so we can just talk.
Wow! So that's how the group started.
Mm-hmm.
Well.
Mm-hmm. So I had a very cute gray dog, and I walked that dog up the street twice a day for 12 years.
And your husband.
And and so we got to know names of some of the neighbors, and so I called 4 or 5 people, and they knew their neighbors, and so we met at the Harbor Cove Cafe. Phil and Melissa were so nice. They said, "Of course you can use our room." So we were in the back of the Harbor Cove Cafe, and we came, and you can't believe the noise of everybody just getting together, seeing one another, because you're all dispersed.
Right.
I mean, people were in Thousand Oaks, people were in Santa Rosa, people were in Ventura, and so, it was just wonderful to get to talk. And, relay your experience. Mm-hmm.
Well, and in addition to talking, which was probably the main thing, we were assisted really wonderfully by people in Ventura. Jeff Lambert came and spoke to us about how the recovery process worked, how the city was organized to help us with planning.
Tell our listener who Jeff Lambert is.
He is the community development person for the city of Ventura.
Oh, wow. Well, that was very helpful.
Yeah. And so our meetings, we usually had someone coming to talk to us about some of the things we cared about at the time. For example, we had FEMA come one time to talk about how they supported us, and we had one of the engineers from the city come to talk to us about parts of the rebuilding process and so on and so forth.
Wow. So the city was really very helpful. I mean, they really had you guys in mind.
And we would just talk to Jeff, and he would say, "Why don't you talk to Joe Yonner? He can tell you about debris removal." Like Courtney Lindbergh. These people have come out on their own on a Sunday morning at 10 o'clock to talk with us.
I think everybody wanted to do something because we could all identify.
It was amazing. Architects came. The Church of the Foothill said, "You can meet with us." Javier Saucedo came to talk about energy efficiency when we're building our new homes. Brad Starr came out and talked, and he's the civil engineer for the city of Ventura head, and he talked to us about grading and what that means and what it can do for you. People have been so wonderful.
Mm-hmm. Well, we're going to have to leave it right there and take a little break for a station ID. This is KPPQ-LP Ventura, 104.1 FM, and we're in the Women's Room, where we appreciate and support each other. I'm your host, Kathleen Good. My guests today are Nancy O'Rohde and Ben Rohde, residents of Colina Vista neighborhood on the Ventura Hillsides, and they are here as a voice for the thousands who are displaced by California wildfires. And we're back. So, Nancy, you were telling me that you rented a house and you started buying furniture for when your house is rebuilt. and you have been buying lots of chairs. And I'm asking this as a segue to my next set of questions. Why did you need so many?
We didn't need so many chairs, but chairs are easy to buy.
Oh, okay.
They're less expensive than the big items like a sofa.
Uh-huh.
And so, and it really they come in handy because now we have the neighbor meeting at our rental home.
Oh.
And so there's plenty of room, and people bring coffee cakes or something. We've got coffee, and it's great.
Oh, and how many people are in the group about?
Well, we have names for about 40 on Colina Vista, and some of those people are back in their homes already because they had partial loss. And then, maybe about anything from 20 to 25 people come, or 15 to 25 people come.
Typically, sometimes 34 or 5 have come.
Right. So are all of these pre-fire neighbors, or people have brought other friends along with them?
Oh, no, they're all pre-fire neighbors.
You knew them all ahead of time.
It's essentially the street of Colina Vista had a massive burn.
Yeah.
40 houses, and we're all meeting basically.
Wow. Yeah, you can see it from the freeway.
And what we try to be is positive, productive, and proactive. So what are we going to need more information about now? Windows and doors, or energy efficiency, or solar panels. What do we need? And so that's what we try to do.
So why are you, I mean, despite the obvious, why are you trying to be positive? What would happen if somebody's still feeling pretty frustrated, or and uses the group to vent?
So they don't really.
I think the whole nature of the group really is one of sharing and helping each other. And so if we have a formal speaker, then we'll be focusing on that. But many times we really just get together because we're so busy sharing information about what we've been doing in terms of getting permits, or the rebuilding process, or maybe the design process, or landscaping issues. And so we're sharing what we're doing, we're sharing what we're having trouble with, and it's just a wonderful group where we're helping each other and sharing information.
So it's been also kind of, information sharing, kind of incidentally therapeutic, to have people to share with.
Yeah, as Nancy says, the talking is critical, really. It is so important to be able to talk about what's going on, especially with people who get it, who are, right in the same zone that you are, and maybe can give you a suggestion of something that worked for them, or you can do the same for somebody else.
So what are some of the common concerns and frustrations that the survivors share?
First of all, it's the time. It's the time waiting with this empty lot. First it was debris removal, and then it felt so good to get that stuff off your lot, and it was just a blank bit of dirt. And now we want to see framing going up. We want to see cement. And we always said we were going to have a slab party. When that cement slab went down, we're going to have, a hoedown dance, right? And so, it's the waiting and how much time it takes.
Did you have it? Do you have the slab down now?
No, now I realize that the slabs are really very dangerous with all these pipes coming up and all the rebar coming up. I go, okay, I guess we can't do that. But we are. So weather permitting this week, when we meet, we are going to take a tour of some of the houses that are framed right now. There's about 4 houses that are being framed. So things like that.
Yeah, so you've kind of hit on my next questions, which were about how you're maintaining your positive attitudes. And it sounds like some of these are the little secrets and strategies you have. You try to make a party out of it.
Right.
Yeah. Do you have anything else you use when you're feeling discouraged?
Well, there's two or three things. And one of them was this shtick that Ben and I had, which was people would say, "Did you get your valuables out?" And we'd point to each other and go, "Yeah, our valuables are out. Yeah, there he is. Here's the most valuable," right?
Yeah.
And actually, my sister-in-law called up the next morning and said, "Thank you for leaving. Thank you for not staying behind stupidly. Thank you, because we want to know you. We don't care about your stuff." Right?
Yeah, right.
And also, there's a group called the United Policyholders, and these people was started in 1991 with the Oakland fires. and it was about insurance and learning about insurance. And so they have a little yellow disaster book, and on one of the first pages it says, "Let go of your envy, resentment, and anger.
Ah,
It will not help you."
right,
And for just from that point on, I thought, anger's not helping.
right.
And you can really see when people are angry, they are pretty stuck.
Yeah.
They can't. So,
yeah.
okay, it happened. Let's move on.
Right. What can I
Mhm.
do to fix it?
Right.
Yeah.
Go ahead, Ben.
Well, we had ironically remodeled our house, blew out a wall, and it made a lovely big kitchen. And so part of that process for us, this was like a year and a half before the fire, was to move everything out of our house. And so we had already started a process of getting rid of things.
Oh.
You know, we could park in our garage, and we had become a little more detached than most people probably are from their stuff. And so when the fire happened, we really saw it as kind of a mixed blessing. I mean, yes, we were devastated, but on the other hand, it solved a lot of our problems of what are we going to do about, you know, all these things.
Right.
Because we had things from Fiji, we had things from Kenya, we had things from Spain when we taught there. And so we had a lot of stuff.
Mm-hmm.
And so the joke afterwards was, well, at least our son doesn't have to go through our stuff when we die.
Yeah, I know.
It's gone.
That's it.
It's gone.
In fact, I said the same thing to some people who were behind me in the post office the next day.
Mm-hmm.
We didn't lose our home, but these people, they started talking, and I just was feeling so badly for them. She said, "Oh, we had so much stuff. So, we always meant to go through it." I said, "Well, now at least you won't have to." But you've, I wanted to mention too that you've said that you've done a lot of, and you just gave examples of traveling, living, working abroad. Do you think these experiences have helped you to adjust to not having a home and all your stuff?
Oh, absolutely.
I think so. I think, well, we were in the Peace Corps, and we actually met in the Peace Corps and got married while we were still in the Peace Corps.
Oh, wow.
But I think that experience particularly, but many of our experiences overseas, have just shown us how important people are, and how important people are, and we have, I think, emphasized that after the disaster because we haven't lost people. You know,
Right.
our friends have been stronger, our neighborhood group is stronger, so the people side of things, if anything, has improved since the disaster.
Oh, well, that's very, very positive and really good to hear.
And when your philosophy is people are more important than stuff, then, you now with the fire have to live that philosophy, right? And so, but Ben, what did you say to the newspaper reporter about being in the Peace Corps?
Oh, yeah. The day that we actually went up to the house for the first time, there was a reporter there who said, "Do you care if I walk with you through the house?" And we said, "Sure, come on." And at one point, I was looking over some of the art supplies I had that were all destroyed. And very interesting how they burned. And the woman was looking at me and said, "You don't seem as upset as most people." And I told her, "Well, we used to be in the Peace Corps, and in the Peace Corps, we learned how to do with very little. And we're out of practice, but we still know how."
Yeah, right. That's really cute. So, Nancy, you touched on the fire insurance booklet, and you found out a lot about it, and you've taught a seminar on the subject. Could you tell us about that?
Yes, all of the fire survivors have found out a lot about insurance. So there's a self-care idea at the College of Education at Northridge, and I thought, well, it would be interesting to tell people what I learned. So I named it "What I Learned About Homeowners Insurance and What You Should Know." And so I went through it with people, and basically you take the square footage of your home, and multiply that by 300, and that's what you should be insured with.
Say that again so our listener can get it.
The square footage of your home, multiply that number by $300, and that's what it takes to build per square foot about. What it takes
build
to
new.
Build a new home.
To rebuild. That's good to know.
Yes.
I know you told me that before, and my husband checked, and we're at 250. So yeah.
And so that's really quite good. Some of the people in Ventura hadn't upped their insurance since 1990, and they were woefully underinsured. So the other thing that I think is important is it's coverage D in your declaration page, but this is the additional living expenses. Now, Ben and I didn't know this was in our insurance, but the insurance company pays for you to live in housing for as long as it takes to rebuild your home. We didn't know that. And the words you want to see in your policy are actual loss sustained.
Oh.
And now some of the policies have for 12 months or 24 months, and some of the policies have a dollar figure. And some of the people of the 540 homes who were burned in Ventura, some of those people are coming up to 12 months, and now they've got to pay their own rent. And so you want to look at your homeowner's insurance and see the words actual loss sustained.
Actual loss sustained.
So they're going to pay for us until we can rebuild our home.
Oh, okay. And do you think is it coming along well enough that it could
I think so. I think it could be.
Oh, that's good.
Guardedly optimistic.
Yes.
Well,
nobody's rebuilding is fast enough to suit them.
Right,
But
right.
I think we're all going to make it.
Oh, that's good to hear. Do you think the Colina Vista neighborhood will ever be the same?
Oh,
Better.
yeah.
Oh,
Yeah, it's
well,
gonna be a
that's
better
very
neighborhood.
encouraging.
Yeah, and it's not just Ben and I saying that. It is many people say, wow, this is going to be a great neighborhood. We know each other so
Yeah.
well because
We've
we've all
gotten-
gone through the trauma.
Oh.
Mm-hmm.
So, do you guys think that climate change is related to the terrible fires we've had in California in the past years, Ben?
I think so.
Yeah.
As I was saying, when I was little, out in Pasadena, we would watch the hills burn, and we didn't really feel threatened.
Uh-huh.
It was unusual in those days for the fires to burn a lot of houses and things.
So, because there wasn't as much wind, or there
I
are
think
more
the
houses
wind
now,
and
or
maybe the droughts. There are certainly more houses in places that are more prone to wildfires.
right?
But I certainly pay attention to the weather, and I think it's gotten drier and windier and scarier. So I think this is the new normal.
Well,
having
and
these
this fire
horrible
happened
fires.
in December.
Exactly.
Yeah. So I'm very interested in controlled burns. So what do you guys think about the controversial controlled burns as a way to prevent more destructive fires? Would you want controlled burns to be done to protect your hillside area?
I think it's tricky because it works in places where you can have it controlled. That's the key word, control.
Right.
The chaparral is so dry and dangerous. I don't really know of anybody who's doing controlled burns in the chaparral. And they're doing controlled burns in big forests to take out the understory to make the forest healthy. But I doubt you can do a controlled burn in the chaparral because a little bit of flame all of a sudden, whoosh.
Yeah, it kind of
goes the fire.
explodes almost,
Yeah.
doesn't it? Because it has an oil in it.
Oh, yeah,
yeah.
it burns like crazy.
Oh, wow.
So one of the things you could do is replant with native grasses which don't die as quickly as the grass that's on the hillsides right now. But the other thing is to build fire-resistant housing.
Oh.
Now, anybody who has a vent should have a cover on that vent.
A vent like
into,
where?
into the attic.
In the attic.
Oh, really?
Mm-hmm. Anything that lets air into your house that's breathable, and this is usually on the top of the house, on the roof, or on the
Eaves, under the
eaves.
And where can you get these covers? Or do they have to be custom made? Or
They don't have to be custom made. They should be, at our home improvement stores.
oh,
But I have not seen them.
oh,
And so 80% of the houses had fire-resistant roofing, of the ones that burned. And also they had the correct grid mesh size for the vents. But the embers still got in because these fires are so strong. The wind is so strong, and the embers just go right into the vents, light the attic on fire, and your house is gone.
wow.
So I think it's being smarter about building and also smarter about having the plants around your home.
Right. Well, the fire-resistant plants,
Mhm.
like ice
Mhm.
planter or
Mhm.
something like that.
Well,
lot
you
of
would think
natives.
so. You would think so. However, the fire department will not let the new homeowners, the new homes, have a bougainvillea ice plant
Ivy.
because
Oh.
it's thatched, ivy, pines, and palms. Those are out. You cannot have those because they are so fire prone.
Wow.
And is it cypress? Something like that. Anything that has a lot of dead material in it,
Right.
no. So that's kind of interesting. So that's a start.
So a couple things people can do to recap here is to get covers for their vents, but and that would have to be researched as
Right.
to where to get them
Right.
and
Yes.
install
They
them.
should be available, readily available.
Right, right. And the other thing is the right kind of plants around your
And
house.
if you're interested, they call it a defensible space, and you can go online and get information about it. But many people's houses and plantings are essentially a fire ladder. They're going to conduct the fire from the edge of their lot straight into the house and burn it down. And so you need to think about a defensible space in terms of the planting. And there's a lot of information available, but you've got to do something about it. You have to think and find out what you can do to make your house safer.
Right,
So
right.
Joe Morelli at City Fire Department, they have defensible space, and it's 100 feet. Well, a lot of people's lots are less than 100 feet. So, hello, you're going to have some plants.
Right.
And so it's not well understood what they mean by the
Right.
defensible space. You shouldn't have a tree within 100 yards. Well, 100 feet. Well, I mean,
Right.
that's our whole property. So that's
Right.
not going to happen. We need trees.
Right, right.
So, some clarity.
So
there
this
would
is
be good.
something that perhaps the city or county could help with, how to get this education out there, and teach people, what they need and how to modify for their situation.
And how about open houses for people who do have the correct kind of defensible space? And then let's come to your home and see what can be done with your home.
That's a really good idea. So before the fire, what preparations had you done for the home that you were in that is now gone, and that you're glad you did? And what do you wish you had done?
Well, one of the things that I did not know on the night of the evacuation is what do you do? You're supposed to leave the lights on. You're supposed to keep your front door open, your doors open, so the police or fire department can walk into your home and see and make sure no one's there.
And then people are so worried about,
People are so worried
looting.
about that. Exactly.
Yeah.
And then what else were we supposed to do?
We were supposed to put a note on the door saying that we were gone.
Oh.
We have evacuated.
Had you done that?
No,
No.
no, we locked the
No.
door and
Turn off
Right.
the lights.
turned off the lights.
We
Yeah,
we
we were-
never actually left, but we had our cars packed out in the street
Right.
and with the door locked.
Right. And so we didn't know. Now we know. But what else?
Well, we had a reasonably safe landscape. We had
Succulents.
a lot of succulents, and we did keep things away from the house that were really flammable, but we did have palm trees, and we're certainly not going to have the yard we used to. Our yard will be more consciously fire safe, so that if there is another fire, we stand a better chance of surviving it.
But we also kept our trees, and we kept the limbs from the trees like 15 feet up above the ground, which should have been enough so they wouldn't catch on fire. But
Well, they
it
didn't.
was so hot, they did die eventually.
Right.
But they didn't burn. In other words, our pines and eucalyptus, which are flammable, didn't ignite, but the heat cooked them and they finally died.
So you guys had an evacuation list, which most people didn't. Did you have anything else kind of prepared, kind of knowing where things are, or
Well, the electricity was going on and off, and I took my phone and took a picture of every room and opened the closets of every room. And so now when we're doing our inventory for our personal property, we can look back at those pictures and go, oh, yeah, I remember that, and because you forget very quickly
and did
what
you
had.
use it for insurance? Because
Absolutely.
I took pictures after the fire,
Right.
and never
Great
got
idea.
them in.
Yeah.
Yeah, absolutely.
Wow.
Well, and we actually did have one box, like a box, a paper legal box,
Uh-huh.
where we kept a lot of the things that we would have taken out when there was a fire, and we did in fact grab that box and take it out. So we consciously kept a lot of our important papers and things were in one particular box, so we could just grab it.
Yeah, that was smart.
And that was useful.
Yeah, yeah. Are there any other things that you know now that you would do?
I would have taken more of Ben's pictures that he's created. I would have taken every one of his musical instruments out, and
that's a loss.
Yes, but I think one of the main things I would do is to take my passwords out. They burned.
Book of passwords.
The book of passwords.
Oh.
And the security safety deposit box key burned, and it was so nice that the bank just did it for us and didn't charge us the $200 that it cost to, in 2 hours worth of work to get that thing
we
undone.
did search for it because it was clipped onto a binder in our study, and we found several binders in our study, but never found the key. But there is one thing when we were packing the cars to evacuate, something we didn't do, which is really smart, would have been to take our favorite clothes and just wrap them around the things that we were putting in the car, so that when we got done, we would have had a lot more clothes. And it would have been good for the packing.
I did that. I mean, I just grabbed hangers, everything from the area of the closet of things I usually wear, and I just threw them in the car. Yeah. They were. It took me a long time to.
Very smart.
But I know, having lived abroad myself and having moved many times and having gone away for my husband's job with him, it's so hard to not have enough clothes.
Right.
You know, it's really hard to replace them. Not that there aren't a lot of clothes around, but to find this stuff. As a woman, I think
exactly.
you can appreciate getting stuff that fits and is right for whatever occasion.
Yep.
Mm-hmm.
So let's see. You decided to rebuild, and why did you decide to do that? Was that the best option for you?
Well, we actually went to zero-based planning because we said, well, here's an opportunity.
What do you mean by zero-based planning?
Meaning that we could do anything we wanted to. We could have moved to Fiji. We could have decided to move in with my son in Denver. And we could have made any decision. So we decided, what do we really want? We love Ventura. And in particular, we really like the lot that we had because it had a great microclimate. So we simply said, oh, this is what we want to do. We want to be there. And so that means we rebuild. And so we made that decision not just because, we were there, so we're going to rebuild. We really thought about, what are the alternatives?
Right.
And we decided that what we want to do is stay in Ventura and rebuild on that lot. And so it's actually an exciting thing. We're excited about the rebuild. It's not going fast enough, but we've got a great house design, and it's really an exciting opportunity.
Is it similar to the past design you had, or
Not really. It's much, much better.
Wow! It is kind of exciting. Kind of a freeing experience.
It is a freeing experience. When you start to sit down with the architect and say, here's what we liked about our other house, or old house that burned. Here's what we didn't like. And who are we? And we love to garden. We love to be outside. And so now we have not one, but 2 outdoor courtyards. In this house.
So as far as insurance go, do they allow you to build what you want within the parameters of the money they are going to pay, or
you get a settlement, and it's up to you to use it as you will. In other words, if we were intent on rebuilding our house, that would probably be a bit more affordable than what we're actually building, because we've improved the design quite a lot. And so the insurance company, or at least our insurance company, isn't standing over our shoulder telling us how we need to rebuild. They've simply given us the money, and we're using it.
This is the money in your policy. And also, because we were 100% insured, we got 20% more. And because there's building upgrades that's included in part of it, that's another 25%. And so there's an amount that we could get for if we're rebuilding. And that's the amount they're going to pay, and that makes sense. That's what we signed up for.
Right. So are you going over? I'm just
probably,
curious.
Because
probably.
We're not rebuilding that house. This house is a little bit bigger, but it's a lot more interesting.
So very exciting.
It is. Yeah. It is. Yeah, it's for us. It's built around us, and we decided to build for 50 years. So maybe our child can inherit it and his family. But we decided to do 50 years, so we don't. So we put a little bit more into it now.
What a legacy.
Yeah, could be. Well, it's such a beautiful place to be in Ventura.
Yeah.
We're lucky.
So how about the city planning? Did you have to get special permission to build a different house or follow zoning things about height and...
The city's been very good about that. They've given us, everybody, not just us, but everybody gets a certain amount of flexibility in terms of how much you can increase the square footage without having to do a rezoning thing and so on and so forth. So that we've been very happy with the city, both in terms of the support they've given to the Thomas Fire people, and then just the material support. When you go into planning, people are there, no nonsense. Yolanda at the planning office is fabulous, and so we've had really very positive experiences with the city, both when we have to get down and get the permits, and also what they're giving us permission to do in broader terms for the Thomas rebuild.
It sounds to me like your very positive attitudes are kind of helping getting all this done rather than, feeling like you've been cheated by the universe or something.
Yes, I think it really helps. And, the first week they said, we're going to do this turnaround 3 weeks planning, right? Now it takes 4 or 5 times to get everything in that they want you to get in. But, they have stuck to it. They have done, 15 business days and get those plans back to you. They've been fantastic.
Wow.
And 300 people, I think, already have building permits.
Something like that.
Mm-hmm.
Online,
wow.
Yeah.
So what has been probably the biggest hurdle in getting the rebuild started?
Well, for us, it appears to be getting engineering. Apparently, the engineers are very impacted, and so we're temporarily held up waiting for some engineering to happen in terms of our plans. But everybody's got little glitches, and it's not a smooth road. It's a complicated process. And Ventura, everybody's busy. All the engineers, all the contractors,
they're all up
the
there on the
construction
hillsides.
people are all backed up, working as hard as they can. They're working on Sundays. I mean, it's incredible. So everybody's doing their very best to help us build.
Have you been impacted also by the fires in Northern California?
Not that we're aware of.
Oh,
but
I just thought
we
maybe
don't know.
fewer contractors. Yeah.
Well, there might be some materials issues, but we really haven't seen anything yet.
Most of the contractors are from around here in Ventura County. There's some from Bakersfield and a few from Santa Barbara, but pretty much they're Ventura County.
Oh, I see. Keep it in the
the
community.
County.
Buy local.
Right. Buy local.
Right. Well, you've kind of hit on many of these things, but I'll ask this question anyway because you might think of something else. Have there been any unexpected positive opportunities or experiences presenting themselves while you're sort of in this exile in your own city?
Well, yes, we've gotten to know a lot of the restaurants. And, it's the friendships that we have. I mean, I have a birthday group. We go out for birthdays, 4 or 5 times a year. And those people were incredible. I love wearing crazy reading glasses. So the first time we met afterwards, what did I get? I've got, from each of them 2 or 3 crazy reading glasses, right? But in the same group, May and Lester said, come and stay at our house for as long as you need. It is your house. You're not a guest here. You're living here. That was just so fabulous. Another, Glenn and Karen said, our son has a condo. It's empty. Use it.
Wow.
Yeah, let's get that started. And so we really landed pretty easily, and just all of the incredible help from people. Oh, and we have to mention the United Way, Red Cross, FEMA.
What do these organizations provide?
Well, Red Cross was come and tell us, if you're a fire survivor, come. Here's immediate monies for you for rent or whatever you need it for, and and if you had more kids, the amount would go up.
United Way also has given everybody in our group some financial support, and you might remember Ventura had a benefit concert for the fire survivors, and we all got a check from that. I mean, it's really been an outpouring of help. It's just amazing. And then one of the silver linings I was going to mention is we're having lost our house, we've rented 2 places, and it's been very interesting because it helps us understand what we need in a place to live. And so one place was a little small. The place we're in now is maybe a little big, but it's sort of focused us in terms of understanding what we want in our new house. So that's been an unexpected positive.
Oh, wow. Many, many positive things from this tragedy. It's just been a joy to listen to you two, and we got a lot of information. Well, we'd all like to wish you the best of luck in getting your home rebuilt as quickly as possible. And thank you so much for sharing your experiences with our listener.
Oh, thank you.
Thank you so much for allowing that.
Oh,
It's been a pleasure.
Good. Yes. I've been talking to Nancy O'Rode and Ben Rhodey, who are survivors of the December 2017 Thomas Fire here in Ventura. And they've been here as a voice for those thousands who are displaced by California wildfires. This is KPPQ-LP Ventura, 104.1 FM, and we're in the Women's Room, where we appreciate and support each other. I'm your host, Kathleen Good.